I think we're there. Just give me a second. Let me just to be sure. Number. We've been reading the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, okay? And we have a number of things to cover. But I'm sure we're going to finish this particular video today. We can get into the other one some other time, but let's finish this one. But give me a second, just to be sure we're good. I think we're back on YouTube and Facebook. YouTube is back. Thank you, Mr. Larry and Waju. Thank you very much for the heads up. So I have to put B so that in case somebody wants to watch it later, they'll know that it's continuing elsewhere. Folks on YouTube, it might be it's technical issues. Hopefully, we're going to have newer equipment that will not be cutting like this. I really apologize for. But I think we're back. Are we back? We're back. Guys, we're back. So let's get back to the topic. So we've been talking about the things that Zeke did starting 1938. All right? In terms of, ethnic politics and tribalism. We're going somewhere. And I'm going to talk about the Yoruba Tennis Club in a bit. But let's finish this one. So it says here that, so when a Nigerian, especially if the person is not Igbo, if the person is not Igbo, to pass, Zeke will publish, it will say something like, Nigerian economist passes PhD London. Okay? If he's Igbo, he will write Igbo. But if he's Yoruba, he will write Nigerian. The Nigerian narrative that has been sold to you is not a universal thing. It's not collective. It's for the rest of us, but not for them. They have to still maintain their thing. Which, by the way, let me make it very clear. It's not bad to maintain your ethnic identity and your uniqueness. But the reason you want to do it at the expense of others is because in your mind, you think you're superior to others. Meanwhile, you're not. So it says here that when the Nigerian, did well, he would just publish Nigerian Economics Passes PhD London. The scholar concerned was Dr. Fadipe, a Yoruba. As late as 1945, 2 Nigerian law students of Cambridge University, one Yoruba and one Igbo, passed the law tripos examination. The Yoruba passed with second-class honors upper division, and the Igbo passed with second-class honors but in the lower division. The latter got front-page publicity in the pilot, but the former got a small space given to him on the back page a few days after the report of the Igbo colleague had appeared. So, 2 people went to school in Cambridge. You had... somebody wrote something in the comments. That's what they call Gili. Thank you. That's what they call Gili Nigerian. Nigerian wedding. Nigerian food. Bokpa Izibo. Otungbe Midebe. So, Okpa Izibo, Abacha Izibo. I don't know how they did that thing, but sorry, I apologize because people's palates are different. I just don't. But my palate is not a judge of what you should eat. So, but the thing is, what they make is theirs, and that's how it should be, by the way. But what you make is ours. So yeah, that's how they say Gele is Igbo, but then Ishafu is Gele Nigerian, but Ishafu is whatever it is. Anyway, let's go back to this. So it says here that 2 people had passed an exam in the UK, right, in Cambridge. One had a 2-1, the other had a 2-2. The one with the 2-2 was on front page. The one with the 2-1 was at the back. Why? The one with 2-2 was Igbo, the one with 2-1 was Yoruba. At this point, I was in the UK. This was 1945. Apart from failing, let me finish that part. As for outstanding Yoruba public men, so all the Yoruba, listen to this, please. Please. It's very important. As for outstanding Yoruba public men, they were all of them dubbed as imperialist stooges and Uncle Toms. As for outstanding Yoruba men, they were all called tribalists and bigots. Outstanding Adeboye, outstanding Shoyinka, outstanding Kumuyi, outstanding. Anybody, tó bá ṣáà ti jẹ́ pé Yorùbá ni and is outstanding, we have to find a way to cut him to size. We have to bring them down. They are all supporting bad governance. They are all terrible people. Tó bá ṣáà ti jẹ́ Yorùbá. What you see people doing today did not start today. That's the point. And it's so funny that you have these conversations. People come and say, oh, you're a tribalist. Are you dumb? We're talking about the fact that this bigotry you are doing is a family heirloom. This is your heritage. But your people who are doing good people, great nation, they will attack your own, bring rubbish. You two now be doing, yes, we are all obedient. Obedience is the newest manifestation of Zikist movement, which is what we're going to read. We're going to get to that later anyway. So all the outstanding ones, they were all imperialist stooges. All of them were Uncle Toms. Apart from failing to give publicity to the achievements of the Yoruba and holding their public men to obloquy, the pilot always made sure that all their misdoings received due publicity. If a Yoruba person does something wrong, it must be published. Remember, there was no Facebook or Twitter. West African Pilot was the most popular newspaper, which is, I mean, by the way, he did a very good job with that paper, okay? So one of the things they did with that paper is that Tio Baba Dishenkan, we must publicize it. The heavens must hear that somebody has done something wrong. It says, apart from failing to give publicity to the achievements of the Yoruba and holding their public men to obloquy, the pilot always made sure that all their misdoings received due publicity. As many of the unsavory aspects of Yoruba life as its news gatherers could muster received banner headlines in the pilot. In contrast to this, care was taken to ensure that any misdoing of the Igbo was kept out of the newspaper. But Awo was one that introduced tribalism. Okay. Whenever a non-Yoruba name was mentioned in the pilot, that's what I was talking about earlier. Whenever a non-Yoruba name was mentioned in the pilot in connection with a trial or conviction for a crime, meticulous care was taken to indicate the tribe of the accused or convicted person. Not many people then and now could differentiate an Igbo name from an Edo name or Ijo name, for instance. So in order to make assurance doubly sure that the reading public were not misled into thinking that an Igbo man had been mixed up in any reported ugly business, a non-Yoruba name was invariably correctly identified by its tribal origin. Osemudiame Bini Edo. They have to write it there, so you're not going to say it's Igbo. If it's Yoruba, we already know. But if it's not Yoruba, we have to write the ethnicity. This is the man telling you that ethnicity does not mean anything. We are all Pan-Africa. Okay. The examples given in this chapter are only a small fraction of such like numerous acts perpetrated by Dr. Azikiwe. There's a reason he said he did that thing, and I think it's still happening today. He said that by 1940, I think I found it, by the end of August 1940, listen to this, I was certain in my own mind that Dr. Azikiwe was not a conscientious member of the Nigerian youth movement, and that for some reasons best known to himself, he was bent on destroying this nationalist organization. I know why. It was not the Oga, that's why. We'll talk about the reasons later. For some reasons best known to himself, he was bent on destroying this nationalist organization. At the same time, it seemed clear to me that his policy was to corrode the self-respect of the Yoruba people as a group, to build the Igbos as a master race, to magnify his own vaunted contributions to the nationalist struggles, to dwarf and misrepresent the achievements of his contemporaries, and to discount and nullify the humble but sterling quota which older politicians had made to the country's progress. The part I want to talk about right now is the corrosion. Thank you very much for the gift, T-Girl. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. The idea was to corrode the self-respect of Yoruba people. Let me tell you why. How? If you picked up a newspaper, the most popular newspaper of your time, of your day, you pick it up today, you see Kunle attacks policeman in Ojota. Tomorrow, you see Tayo convicted of whatever. And then, when you don't see Kunle or Tayo or any Yoruba name, you see Ogbemudia, Edo, did this and that. You don't see any Igbo name doing anything wrong. What will happen to you as a Yoruba person in your own land, though? That's why when I see Yoruba men and Yoruba elders who were in NCNC, including even Madam Funmilayo Razamkuti, Kasha Afisenu Kadake. So you have this young Yoruba people saying that whether you on saying one fake products, they are reports from Southern Cameroon in the 1940s. You will not find it in West African pilots in the same 1940s, but they were happening. I've seen the reports. We've read them here before. People were selling, how did they write it in that paper? They were selling chalk as M&B. They were selling tea at hot tea at slow noisement. 1948. And that was when the report came out. But it was happening before then. So it's been happening since early 40s, at least. 48 was when they just had enough and said, no, we're not going to rent houses. They said they were not going to be renting houses to folks from that region. Whatever you're seeing happen, 1948, nothing has changed. But the point is that you will not see it in Zeke's paper. So if you're a Yoruba person and you discover that every time you look at the paper, you're seeing what's wrong with your people, what your people are doing wrong. Now, let me say it this way. If your people are doing something and you want to publish it, it's news, right? But once you don't put the hoop, you don't do any kind of thing like that. So these ones begin to feel inferior. It's a psychological thing. There's something wrong with us now. How come these people are doing better? They don't commit crime. They don't do all these things. Well, the only ones who are always acting like this, then there's something wrong. That's what I will call corroding self-respect. So it says here that many people could not differentiate between Edo, Ijo name, and so on. So they had to make assurance doubly sure by writing the tribal origin of whoever committed any crime in front of their names. This is Zeke that's supposed to be Pan-African. This is Zeke that wrote that book, The Renaissance Africa, that said there should be no tribal appellations. You know, the idea of do what I say, don't do what I do. Okay. So, a stage was reached when even his apologists felt very strongly that for over 2 years past, Dr. Azikiwe had been consistently conducting himself in a manner which was not only anti-party and contrary to the... I didn't say all the examples, but there are many other examples. I want to just move on. A stage was reached when even his apologists felt very strongly that for over 2 years past, Dr. Azikiwe had been consistently conducting himself in a manner which was not only anti-party and contrary to the noble ideals of the movement, but also nationalist, tribalistic, and egocentric. Accordingly, at a meeting of the Central Executive Committee held in September 1940, a decision was taken that a letter should be addressed to Dr. Azikiwe, inviting him to appear before the next meeting of the Central Executive Committee, fixed for Monday, 7 October 1940, to show why his membership of the movement should not be determined. 3 of us were co-opted from the branches to attend this meeting. Senator Chief T.A. Odutola, the Ogbeni Oja of Ijebu-Ode, who was chairman of the Ijebu-Ode branch of the movement, Chief J.O. Kashimawo, Secretary, Abeokuta branch, and myself from Ibadan. I want to pause to quickly say something before I go on to this. Somebody wrote earlier about Yoruba Tennis Club. Zeke wrote in his book, My Odyssey, that when he returned from Ghana, he wanted to join the Yoruba Tennis Club. You know what? Well, coming back to this book, what happened? I want to give you an idea the kind of rubbish that we are still living with. It did not start today. All this thing, like that's election. Election caused it. It's not election. Efiniwa. The bad days in Monagolo, Omaru. You can't help it. Oh, I opened the 1951 stuff. We have a lot of things to cover today, but we have time. Notice I'm not rushing like I did on Friday. Of course, go need chemo for why, All right. So I'll tell you the story while I'm looking for the page. Okay. So Zeke returned to Nigeria and he wanted to join the Yoruba Tennis Club. Now, backstory. 1926, the Yoruba people decided to organize tennis club in Lagos. And they did that because, so there was a tennis club, but it was European. And they were not admitted because they were not European. And so the Yorubas, who were the sons of the soil, decided to, create one for themselves. As a matter of fact, this year, 100 years. So they created one for themselves where they could play tennis without having Onyibo talking anything. So this is what Zeke now said. On my return to Nigeria, I followed my experience in Ghana. This is from his book, My Odyssey. On my return to Nigeria, I followed my experience in Ghana and tried to join the leading tennis clubs, partly to improve my game and also to broaden my circle of friends. I applied for membership of the Yoruba Tennis Club. At that time, it had in its membership virtually all the leading tennis players of Nigeria residents in Lagos, and most of these were well known to me. But I was informed that an unwritten law existed in that club not to admit into its membership any person of Igbo descent, no matter how eminent he might be. Let me stop to say something. That was Zeke. Zeke is complaining that when he returned in 1937, he wanted to join Yoruba Tennis Club, and that they said that there's an unwritten law that they will not admit into their membership any person of Igbo descent. It's a lie. It's a what? It's a lie. I did a video on Yoruba Tennis Club. It's on YouTube. Please check it out on Bushio's YouTube channel. Check it out. It's a lie. It was not to exclude Igbo. Nobody even cared about your existence. I saying, oh, Igbos must not be allowed. It didn't happen. All right. It was like, oh, nobody must allow Igbo to go, join Yoruba Tennis Club. It wasn't. Nobody cared about Igbo. It was not to exclude Igbos. It was to include Yoruba people. All right. It was a group founded for Yoruba by Yoruba people. That's why if you watch that video I did on Yoruba Tennis Club, when they were having the centenary seminar, Professor Shoyinka said, he said it in passing, if you don't like it, go to your village and create your own. You can't travel to somebody else's land and tell them that you must be included because they are one Nigeria. It is Yoruba, it's in the name. Yoruba Tennis Club. It's not about we don't want Igbos, it's that we want Yoruba. Why? Because they formed it for themselves. Zeke wrote that they said there was an unwritten law that they're not going to admit into membership any person of Igbo descent, no matter how eminent he might be. So you think that when they were starting out, they wrote it for themselves. Igbo, no. Do you really think you count that much? The point is that the people did something for themselves. It had nothing to do with you. And why should you want to be this Zeke Oman Tojubole Ronuru? Because that's how he went to join Reformed Ogboni fraternity, ROF. Zeke joined Ogboni, and then later on he said he was going to leave because it was ethnocentric. I was like, what did you expect? That Ogboni was ethnocentric? What do you mean ethnocentric? It's a Yoruba organization. Now, in fact, there's ROF in Onitsha. Now they are trying to get into the lodges in Lagos. In fact, they've gotten to the lodges in Lagos. So they are getting very ethnocentric. What do you mean ROF is ethnocentric? What do you think was the idea? So the idea basically is that you will create something. He will not create it. You will create it. He will come in. They will take it over, and they will gaslight you into reshaping it according to their own idea of how things should be. But if they ever created anything, they will not care about what you think about it. Here's what I think: if you create something and you don't think about me about how to do it, I think you have a right because it's yours. But when I do my stuff, you don't have a right to come to talk to me about how to. This is how they're talking. That's why the people talk like that in politics now. They come in to say, your state, and Your Fayose should not be talking because you have a point. What point do you have? That was in 1937. You want to join Yoruba tennis club? They said no. He says because you are Igbo. It's not because you are Igbo. It's because you are not Yoruba. And there are certain things in our houses that we have a right in our home to say, this is how we want to live. If a person comes to your house and says, I want to sleep over, you can say no. It's not because, it's maybe because you are not part of the family and the Wolof maybe. That's it. You can't say it's because they hate our ethnicity. All these things that people say today, someone wrote it up, it's true. It's the same thing. Everything you hear them say, start with Zik. And that's why I said we had a session on educated, how the intellectuals actually cause these things. The uneducated people did not think like this. They were just living their own life. They want to just sell and survive. Now, as soon as these educated so-called people start telling them they have right, they have this, they have that, they just go rabid, begin to demand for what they would never get in their homeland, considering their social status. So that was Zik. I mean, I read his book, so I read his book, and it was intentional. Eventually, he started something called Zik Tennis Club, and I've wondered when he created that thing. Sorry, Zik's Athletic Club, early in 1938. When he created his own, why did he call it Zik's Athletic Club? Why not Nigerian Athletic Club? Or why not Human Athletic Club? Since it's supposed to be open, he wrote it here. In fact, let me read to you. It says, naturally, in fact, let me go back just a bit. I applied for membership of the Yoruba Tennis Club. At that time, it had in its membership virtually all the leading tennis players of Nigeria resident in Lagos because they were Yoruba, and it's Yoruba land. And most of these were well known to me, but I was debarred from membership. I asked a few friends, and I was informed that an unwritten law existed in that club not to admit into its membership any person of Igbo descent, no matter how eminent he might be. It's a lie. How do I know? Because I read the story of the organization. And what they said is that they formed this thing for themselves after they had been expelled by the Europeans. Naturally, I was disappointed because some of the players were my schoolmates and contemporaries. And so, in view of this act of tribal discrimination, I decided to establish an athletic club which will open the doors of its membership to sportsmen and women of all races, nationalities, tribes, and classes residing in Nigeria. So what would you call it? All races, all nationalities, all tribes, all classes reside in Nigeria. You can call it Human Tennis Club. No, Zik called it Zik Athletic Club. Why did you use your name? Ego? You want to create the idea that you are the cosmopolitan. You want to create something. The cosmopolitan nature of this club attracted some of his finest athletes to his colors. Why did you call it Zik's Athletic Club? Is there anything wrong with calling it Zik Athletic Club? No. Try and get it. There's nothing wrong. See, the point is not that there's anything inherently wrong in these actions. It's when you try to paint yourself like this saint, you are better than everybody, you are doing something clinical. That's the issue. It's like when Obi was saying last week, he has a landlord. Kiwani for anybody. This poverty porn, you want to look as if you are a billionaire. You have money. Enjoy your money. God bless you. Don't you're not really poor, you're not really rich, so that the poor can vote for you. Is that how they do it? Don't give shishi. Anyway, so I think maybe that was when Zik started having problem. But he also had problem when they took the announcement from West African Pilot. I think they were taking business away. Then he also talked about the fact that the people were hurting him. Sorry, that somebody hurt him. And he decided to attack the entire NYM. We are going somewhere, stay with me. Back to the book by Awo. We just finished reading Zik's autobiography. Let's read Awo's own. It says here, he mentioned the people that came to the meeting. There was Chief Odutola from Ijebu-Ode. There was Chief Kashimawo from Abeokuta, and himself, that's Awo, from Ibadan branch. The meeting commenced at about 7 in the evening and continued till well after midnight. I'm going to jump some paragraphs. Number one. So they began to talk to him about everything he has been doing. He had been writing against the organization. He had been involved in anti-party activities. That's Azikiwe. And so they started asking him, like, why should we have you work with us? However, they also were tiptoeing. They were working on eggshells. And they were doing that for one reason and one reason only. This was 1940, October. There was going to be an election first quarter of 1941. The NYM Exco's wanted to discipline Zik, but they wanted to be careful because they needed his papers for the next election because he had wider reach. So they were now tiptoeing. This is why I don't like in what we do. All these... Anyway. Let me to you. When the decision was taken to invite Dr. Azikiwe to the meeting, 3 persons, Akisoya, Ojo, and Luther, were charged with the duty of assembling all the facts which supported the indictment against Dr. Azikiwe of disloyalty to the cause and ideals of the movement. These 3 persons were also to lead the case against Dr. Azikiwe at the meeting. After the September meeting and before October 7, General Olayimika Lakija, 3rd Lagos member in the Legislative Council, elected in 1938 on the platform of the movement, died, and the date for a by-election to fill this place had been fixed. So it's going to be another by-election. All those who aspire to be candidates as well, all those who aspired to be candidates, as well as many of those who thought that Dr. Azikiwe's cooperation was indispensable to the movement's victory at the by-election, developed cold feet at the meeting. Mr. Ikoli, who presided, started by assuring Dr. Azikiwe that he had not been brought before the executive committee as an accused person. Leaders of the movement were puzzled about a number of things about which they required explanation from him. They had no doubt that he, Dr. Azikiwe, as a loyal member of the movement, had good reasons for everything that he had done, including insulting one of the most prominent members of the movement by calling him an Uncle Tom. The man was just to finish that line. They had no doubt that he, Dr. Azikiwe, as a loyal member of the movement, had good reasons for everything that he had done. What? I did not know when this exclamation escaped my lips. And of course, all the pacifists were startled. As for Dr. Azikiwe, he cast a deadly glance at me. I then whispered to my comrades from the provinces. I sat between Senator Dutola and Chief Kashimawo. So this is the way this awful business is going to be handled. Amazing. They are already satisfied that the man is a loyal member of the movement. Then why this mockery? Dr. Azikiwe sat close by the 3 of us, and his ears no doubt caught some of my words. But at that stage, he showed no reaction. Dr. Maja and 1 or 2 others spoke in support of Mr. Ikoli. Then Dr. Azikiwe begged to be allowed to say a few words, but he actually spoke for about 2 hours. He had nothing against the movement as such, or its ideals, which were indeed noble, and which were being sincerely practicalized. But he had been offended by some leaders of the movement personally, particularly by Chief H.O. Davis and Oba Samuel Akisoya. I interrupted and heckled him a number of times in the course of his long statement. Once, he asked the chairman to warn the comrade from Ibadan to desist from interrupting him. This request evoked a warning in these words: "Comrade Awolowo, please." I kept quiet and spent some time in scanning the faces of our leaders at the meeting, and their reaction was unmistakably one of sympathy, or pretended sympathy, for Dr. Azikiwe. I was compelled to ejaculate, "Incredible! What is now happening? An accused turned prosecutor." In other words, you said the person is accused. You brought the person to come and explain himself. Now he's the one talking to you for 2 hours. What is now happening? An accused turned prosecutor. The simple truth is that the man is disloyal to the cause, and he should be told so. I think I speak like I will or something. Anyway, Dr. Azikiwe quickly. I'm saying that because you respect people, but you will respect the person, but you will say the truth. And I think that's what I was like. All this pandering for what? Because you want to win an election and you need these papers. I'll tell you what happened during that election. It destroyed everything. But let's continue. During the next election, after the by-election. So he said, I was compelled to ejaculate, "Incredible, what is now happening? An accused turned prosecutor. The simple truth is that the man is disloyal to the cause, and he should be told so." Dr. Azikiwe quickly rejoined that I was one of the victims of H.O. Davis's propaganda against him, that I had slandered him by describing him as a disloyal person. The word I used that night was much stronger than disloyal. And that unless I withdrew my remarks, he might be compelled to take legal action against me. "Legal action, my foot," I retorted. "He speaks as if he's going to be both plaintiff and judge. Besides, I most vehemently resent the suggestion that I am one of the victims of H.O. Davis's propaganda. I am 31, and I am old enough to make up my own mind on any issues of the day. Mr. Ekoli then said that he really must appeal to me to stop all these interruptions. They will do nobody any good. I remained silent for the rest of Dr. Azikiwe's speech, but I must confess that all that he said was palpable affliction to me. He wound up his speech by saying that in view of the incompatibility between him as a person and the persons he had mentioned, he had no alternative but to tender there and then his resignation from the movement. As soon as Dr. Azikiwe resumed his seat, there were volleys of appeal to him from different sides of the meeting, begging him to withdraw his resignation. On this, I respect him. He turned the table on them. You're going to suspend a person. He's now threatening you of resigning his membership. You are now begging him not to go. I think that was smart of him. Very smart. Mr. Bitwe, good to see you. I spoke. This is Papa. I spoke and recounted some of the doings of Dr. Azikiwe, which amounted to a breach of faith and on his part with the movement, and a deliberate subversion of its ideals. It appeared to me most strange and utterly indefensible that a person with Zeke's education and professed political beliefs should seek by subtle devices to destroy the only nationalist organization in the country, simply because, as he had just said, of personal differences between him and some members of the movement. I felt sure, I added, that the man had some ulterior motives for his conduct. I urged that he should be expelled that night. If we continue to abhor him in the movement, he would eventually destroy it. That proves prophetic. That is not the temper of this meeting, Comrade Awolowo said a number of voices. And in reply, I said, what then is the temper of the meeting? Condoning indiscipline and disloyalty. I strongly press for the expulsion of this man before he grows too monstrous for us to cope with. Chief Kashimawo spoke, criticizing the past conduct of Dr. Azikiwe, but was silent as to whether he should be expelled or not. Senator Odutola also spoke. He opined that all the confusion and tribal hates that were then rearing their heads in the country were the product of Dr. Azikiwe's quote-unquote New Africa. What we are hearing right now is New Nigeria. A New Nigeria is poor, whatever. That New Nigeria thing is from New Africa. Zik used to shout a New Africa at that time. That New Africa was all of us were the same, but his own ethnicity was more than all of us. Ridiculous. This is what Chief Odutola said. During the days of our old Africa, Chief Odutola remarked, the Igbos and Yorubas lived together as Nigerians. It seems to me, therefore, that the remedy for the present troubles in... I'll tell that again. During the days of our old Africa, Chief Odutola remarked, the Igbos and Yorubas lived together as Nigerians. It seems to me, therefore, that the remedy for the present troubles is this. Azikiwe has brought his New Africa from America. He should return it there, either by post or by taking it back there personally. If need be, his passage to and fro should be paid by the movement. But mark this, he concluded, unless this Azikiwe's brand of New Africa is done away with, there will be no harmony in this country. Anyway, the Shah talked to Zik. He withdrew his resignation. They did not suspend him, so he essentially won. But they had another meeting at Bar Beach, where interestingly Zik actually wanted to run for office. That's to fill the seat that Alakija, Olayemi Kalakija, occupied before his death in 1940. So they had this. You could call it primaries, right? You had Alhaji Jibril Martin, who was selected as the movement's candidate for the by-election, and that was after the primaries. Let me tell you the result of the primaries very quickly. Jibril Martin had 90 votes. Maja had 87. Davis had 86. That's H.O. Davis. Ikoli had 80. Akisoya had 68. Azikiwe had 33 votes. Right? They were trying to fill the seat of Olayemika Alakija. No, they're different. There's Maja, there's Alakija. Maja was alive. Alakija died in 1940. So they're going to organize a by-election to fill that seat. But before the by-election, they're going to have a primary within NYM, and the primary Lomuvo Tiwa Alhaji Jibril Martin now won with 90 votes. Zik had the least That was when he went to get into politics in 1940. Before this time, and for 5 years afterwards, Dr. Azikiwe had always protested that he did not wish to seek election into any colonial legislature, but would rather content himself with being a kingmaker, in quote, until Nigeria was free from foreign rule. It would appear from his subsequent conduct, however, that he did not like his defeat at this election. For in spite of the settlement of the night of October 7 and of the cordial tea party at the Bar Beach, he allowed Dr. C.C. Adeniyi Jones to make use of the pages of the pilot to open very devastating broadsides against the movement and its candidate. Excuse me. All the same, Alhaji Jibril Martin won the by-election. What it's saying basically is that West African pilot, again, belonged to Zik. Zik was in NYM. Adeniyi Jones used West African pilot to attack Jibril Martin, who was a member of NYM, just as Zik. But Martin still won. Now to where the tribalism now got into politics. Gone. All this while was tribalism getting into a discourse using newspaper, so social engineering essentially, introducing tribalism in reportage of news, of propping one particular ethnicity above others, newspaper. So that was for all of us, social engineering for the people. They were just Igbo de bad do one sing kankan. Tabaka newspaper going ni ipo kan sing kankan. Àwa iná ni. Tẹ́ bá wò báyìí, àwa ni. Tẹ́ bá wò bẹ́ẹ̀, àwa ni. Tí ó bá ṣàwà, ó máa jẹ́ do, àbí kó jẹ́ Òròbó, àbí kó jẹ́ Haúsá kan. Bó ẹ lè rí Igbo kankan kó ṣe nǹkan tó burú nílẹ̀ Yorùbá yìí. Nítorí pé ẹni tó ní ìwé ìròyìn tẹ́ ń kà, ìwé ìròyìn tó jẹ́ pé òun ló gbajúgbajà jù, kò kí ń kọ nǹkan táwọn ẹgbẹ́ tiẹ̀ bá ṣe tí ó bá dáa. Thank you very much, my battlefield. Buried news. Everything that is not very cool from his people, he will bury those things. But if it happens in another group, he will amplify. So you start feeling like there's something wrong with you as a Yoruba person, because how come you're the ones that were always doing some terrible stuff in Yoruba land? You can look for the modern equivalent. And somebody wrote in the comment section, yes, just look around, you'll find. Then they'll tell you they're doing the job of newsmen. I'm not serious. All right, let's get back into this. So, how did he get into politics? 1941. What happened was that Sir Kufuor Abayomi, he was a member of NYM. As a matter of fact, he was a president of NYM, but he was in the Lagos Legislative Council. He had to travel to the UK for a course. He was an ophthalmologist. So that meant that the seat will be vacant, which means they're going to have a by-election. I think I mentioned this last week, but it bears repeating. Now, Mr. Ikoli had become the president of NYM at the time. So he wanted to become the Legislative Council member. But Akisoya also wanted to be a member. Declared his desire to contest the by-election. That declaration, in my view, settled the matter, and there were many who shared this view. In 1938, excuse me. Sorry about that. In 1938, the parent body took a decision of policy that where the president expressed his intention to contest any election, he should automatically be selected. The result of this policy was that though there had been 3 seats to be contested in 1938, only 2 were open to members of the movement for nomination, since the president, Sir Kufuor Abayomi, had expressed his wish to stand as candidate. What's the meaning of this, Turinchi? The election of 1938. As of 1938, the president of NYM was Kufuor Abayomi. There were 3 seats, never contest. Kufuor Abayomi showed interest. And because he showed interest, it meant that he would go unopposed because he was the president of the organization. That was the guideline of NYM. So you had only 2 other seats that the members could then vie for. So now that Ernest Ikoli is saying he's interested and is the president of the movement, nobody should have contested, with him. But I would say they made a very grave mistake. grave error by having what you call like a primary. And you had Ikoli, you had Akisoya, and then you had Maja. And Akisoya won, fair and square. 108 votes to 60 of Ikoli and 37 of Maja. But here's what happened. There was a meeting at the Central Executive Committee. In fact, let me just read to you. After they were known, the meeting decided that the results should, as on previous occasions, be referred to the Central Executive Committee, which in its discretion would decide whether to affirm or vary them. In other words, he has won, but they still have to send the results to the Central Executive Committee, and they could decide not to use the results. The following extracts from a report on an editorial in the pilot of 11th and 12th October 1940, respectively, concerning the nomination for the 1940 by-election, were neatly set out. Very neatly set out the established and accepted procedure. October 11. The Executive Committee of the movement will consider these nominations and report to the General Meeting its decision on the choice of actual candidates to contest the by-election. October 12. It is understood that the Executive Committee of the Nigerian Youth Movement will be held tonight when the final selection will be made from the 6 names nominated by the General Meeting. And so they had this meeting and said to them, this is long and short of the story, that since Ikoli had expressed interest, Akisoya should let him run because that's how things should be. The Executive Committee met in due course and varied the decision in favor of Mr. Ikoli. Obasanjo Akisoya, who had also just been elected Vice President of the movement, was present at the meeting of the executive. He congratulated Mr. Ikoli on his election and assured him of his support. Jodemo's friends, however, were not satisfied with the decision of the executive committee. When a general meeting was convened to announce Ikoli's candidature to the members, therefore, these friends, mostly Ijebus, turned up in large numbers. I was there too, all the way from Ibadan. Remember, Itu was Ijebu. It's Remobo at the time, Ijebu Mankogbo. I said that in case there's a Remo person here, before you go and protest. So he said, I was there too, all the way from Ibadan. The announcement of Ikoli's candidature was not well received, but the Odemo himself got up and spoke, congratulating his friend and colleague, and promising his fullest support in the ensuing campaign. He was cheered. When the meeting adjourned, all the leaders of the NYM were happy that an eve of election crisis had been averted. But we were all mistaken. For when nomination for the by-election closed, it was discovered that Obasanjo Akisoya was standing as a candidate against Mr. Ikoli. On 28th February 1941, the pilot carried the sensational news of this fact and also the equally sensational news that Dr. Azikiwe had resigned from the movement. 4 months prior, Azikiwe threatened to leave. They begged him not to go. Well, in February, he's announcing that he's leaving the movement. Now, here's where it gets crazy. By February, there was a publication in, I want to jump because of time. There's a publication in Zeke's own paper, and what Zeke said basically is what I'm going to quickly read to you now. What was heart-rending to many of us was the element of tribalism. This was 21 February 1941. What was heart-wrenching to many of us was the element of tribalism which was introduced into the campaign with a view to swaying the minds of the people in sympathy for Oba Akisoya and embittering them against the movement. The candidature of Obasanjo Akisoya had been rejected because he was an Ijebu, declared the pilot. That's Azikwe's newspaper. And the Ijebus naturally knew it was not true that Obasanjo Akisoya had been rejected because he was Ijebu. The view that eventually prevailed at the meeting of the Central Executive was that since Ikoli was the president of the movement and he had expressed a wish to contest the only seat at the by-election, it was improper that any other officer or member of the movement should come into the running at all. If Ikoli was good enough to be number one man in the movement, he was also good enough to represent the organization in the Legislative Council. I strove hard to persuade the Jebus that they were being deceived, but in vain. I stood firmly by Mr. Ikoli to the end, and he won. Just like they're deceiving us now with the Obedient movement. Zeke went to town and told everybody that the reason they didn't want Akisoya to run was because he was a Jebu. Never mind that Awolowo, that they called tribalist, was also a Jebu, but he was supporting an Ijo man. So think about it for a second. Zeke, the Igbo man who introduced tribalism into Nigerian political discourse in 1941, was not a tribalist. It's a Jebu man who left his own Ijebu brother to support an Ijo man that they call tribalist. And what they really mean is bigot. On polling day, March 5, I was extremely depressed and agonized by the unabashed demonstrations of tribalism which I witnessed. All the Easterners, particularly the Igbos and all the Ijebus in Lagos, teamed up with Dr. Azikiwe and Obasanjo Akíntóyè, and all those who dared to disagree with them were openly abused, jeered at, and condemned as traitors. For the first time in my life, I was called a traitor and Uncle Tom, all because on principles which appeared to me sound and just, I supported an Easterner against my own tribesman. But of course, Ikoli is an Easterner with a difference. He has never stooped to worship at the shrine of Dr. Azikiwe. When the post closed, I was in front of the Glover Memorial Hall. There I was surrounded by a large number of Igbos and Ijebus who were abusing me and were raining curses and imprecations upon me. At first, I replied to them in kind, one after another, but I was soon overwhelmed. It looks like Facebook and Twitter. I want to shake with you. At first, I replied to them in kind, one after another, but I was soon overwhelmed. Some of them threatened to assault me. It occurred to me that discretion lay in my extricating myself from the hostile crowd. At the same time, I did not want to give the impression that I was running away, so I stood my ground, come what may. Then, like a Deus ex machina, Senator Shomolu, at that time a member of the editorial staff of the Pilot and a very good friend of mine, appeared. He was greeted with broad smiles by all my maledictors. He approached me and we engaged in conversation. The crowd were nonplussed, and for once they left me alone. And not for once left me alone. I then took him along with me until I got clear of the crowd. I said goodbye to him and went my way. Before we parted, Senator Shomolu left me in no doubt that Obasanjo Akíntóyè, alias General Saki, was winning. As I wended my way to Ẹkáàbọ Street, the headquarters of the movement and of the daily service, I felt a sense of wrong and grief. So this is New Africa. I mused to myself. When I reached the front of the African Church Cathedral, Broad Street, Lagos, I stopped, closed my eyes, and made the resolution. It was the eve of my 32nd birthday, and I said within me, if the movement lost this election, I would never again fight in the cause of truth, principle, or right. But if we win, I solemnly vow to the God of my heart that wherever the fight is thickest and fiercest in the cause of truth, principle, justice, and right, there I will always be. So may it be. I then opened my eyes and proceeded to Ẹkáàbọ Street. I was overjoyed when I heard that Mr. Ikoli had won, but this was the last electoral battle and the last electoral victory of the Nigerian youth movement. With the exit of Dr. Azikiwe and Obasanjo Akíntóyè from the movement, all the Easterners, excepting a handful of non-Igbo intellectuals, and most of the Ijebus left the organization. It was futile to preach the movement and its ideals to the Igbos or Ijebus after this incident. The movement was a Lagos affair, they would argue, and its leaders were mostly Lagosians. They had contempt and hatred for the people from the hinterland. They would therefore have nothing further to do with them. This campaign of Lagosians versus the rest spread like wildfire. This is still happening today. This was in 1941. Don't talk about it. You are not from Lagos. You are Yoruba, but you are Osun. Meanwhile, we don't even look at ourselves as Osun. We look at ourselves as our towns. You are Oshogbo. You are Beokuta. That's how we talk. But these clowns just come and say, you are from Osun. You are from Ekiti State. You cannot talk about it. Shut up. The point is, they do that thing to create division in Yoruba land. That's how they destroyed NYM. The first thing Zik did was to use the Ijebu against the rest of us. The second one was to now say, this is happening in Lagos. You guys should not talk about it. It's just a Lagos matter until they destroy the group. That's why I tell people, even if you don't live in Lagos, speak on Lagos matter. In terms of speaking for Yoruba cause, right? Speak up for Lagos. Because just like they said, don't talk about Lagos. They're doing it in your state right now. There's no state don't talk about your state if you're not from your state. After a while, don't talk about anything again because you have to prove that you're one Nigeria. So speak up for Lagos. It's not because you are living there. It's because your brothers are there. And let me tell you something as a Yoruba person. If something happens to anybody in any part of Yoruba land, you must feel it. Something in you has to tell you that Ejemi la Arabi. If you hear, that's why when you hear that something is happening to some people, like when they say Kwara Kwara, most of the things that are happening in Kwara is not even Yoruba land, but you still feel it because somehow you feel that connection. When you hear something happening in Kogi State, you say, "Oh, they're just Yoruba people in Kogi State." No, you're Yoruba. You're not. You don't have, one is more Yoruba than the other. You feel bad about what's happening to your brothers elsewhere. That's how you also speak up for them. Speak up for Lagos as well. Don't let anybody gaslight you with the nonsense. Anyway, that's how Zeke destroyed NYM. I mean, that was the beginning of the end of NYM. They tried to resuscitate it in Abeokuta and Ibadan, but never came back. I mean, they tried. It worked for a bit, and then it just couldn't. Now, I spent all that time on this. We have one more thing to talk about before we go. I spent all that time on this just to tell you that this whole tribalism thing did not start an action group in 1951. It started in 1938, and the person who introduced it was Zeke. And he did it in newspaper. Then he introduced it into Nigerian political discourse in 1941, and he used that thing to break a party. And somebody said which book? I've read 2 books. I've read Zeke's own book, My Odyssey, and I've also read Awo, the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And you find this account also in a book that I should have read because I don't want to make you feel like, oh, is Awo versus Zeke. There's a book, The Second World War and Politics in Nigeria, 1939 to 1953, by Gabriel Olusoya. You find the same report. So it's in many books. You also find this in The Educated Elite in Nigeria, The Educated Elite in Nigerian Society by E. Ayodele. So it's something you find in many materials, but those are the 2 that we read today. So that's the first part of this thing. The first part is that our Lord did not bring tribalism into Nigeria. The person who did was Zeke. He brought it into our news, into our memory, even though all of us were doing nationalists. He came to tell us that Igbos are superior. And then when it was time for election in 1941, he brought the Jebu Ango in and scattered the party. But that's just one part of the conversation. Let's go to the second part now. Please do take a listen. It might take us a second because we have to reconnect all the devices. Umbo. Second party will be here for a bit, and I'm going to start reading a book by Gio Daujo, where he referred to what Mbadiwe wrote in his book, Rebirth of the Nation. I would have loved to read that one as well, but I'll just read the quote instead of going to that book. But Mbadiwe wrote a book in 1989, The Rebirth of the Nation. That's where he also heaped all the blame on Awolowo for tribalism. Again, absolute rubbish. He was the king of tribalism, himself and Zeke and the rest of the gang. Anyway, Ẹkáàbọ ilé náà ká tó lọ sí owó bẹ́ẹ̀. Umbo. Again, this is not to say somebody is fighting against any other ethnicity. It's just that some people have made propaganda their life duty and purpose, right? And so throwing Awolowo under the bus for all these years, it's important for people to speak up. Okay, this is number one. I'm fighting for his honor. That's true. I don't even care. All right, I'm doing that. But beyond that, it's for the truth. Don't anybody just going around disparaging and repeating rubbish because they can talk. This one's supposed to be an adult. All of them say the same thing. Just talk. But we will talk and respond. Not with doing propaganda. We'll show the facts. And if you don't agree, that's okay. You must know, so nobody will gaslight or blackmail you into rubbish. Okay? So let's listen to the other part of this interesting video.
He came back from the United States. He started his politics in Lagos. He gained look at a little bit of history. You know, when Nnamdi Azikiwe came back from the United States, he started his politics in Lagos. He gained ground a lot and actually controlled the politics in Lagos. Then when Awolowo came back from the United Kingdom, Awolowo was looking for a foothold, what to lean on, how to form his own basis. And he brought in tribalism in politics. He now told the Yorubas, why should an Igbo man come and be this and be that? And that was how tribalism started in politics in Nigeria. Then that 1951 debacle in the Western House, where Zeke was going to be the premier of Western region. But overnight, there was cross carpet and he lost out. That dawned.
The crazy thing about these guys is that they all sound alike and they all talk rubbish. Absolute nonsense. What you just said, everything you just said right now, hogwash. There's no modicum of sense in it. And I'm angry. But before I go and use my anger to say everything, let me switch this audio source, please. All right, so we'll do this very quickly. Number one, Zeke controlling Lagos, was it very influential in Lagos politics? Absolutely. Okay. And this happened, of course, after NCNC was formed. NCNC, again, was actually not formed by Zeke, just to be clear. It was largely Yoruba. There were 4 major organizations that came together to form NCNC. Number one, you have the NNDP. That's the political party that Abat Macaulay founded in 1923. You had the student movement. You had the Lagos Market Women Organization, right? Then you had the TUC, the Trade Union Congress. They were the groups that formed NCNC. And of course, Abat Macaulay was the president. Then they had Zeke as secretary. And then when Abat Macaulay passed on, Zeke was like his mentee, he was his protege. He became the president of the movement, of the NCNC, and then was quite influential. But the nonsense this man just said that it was very powerful. Then when Awolowo now came to Nigeria, Awolowo now said to introduce tribalism. Again, like we heard, that's nonsense. Awolowo returned to Nigeria in 1947. He did not even say anything political, like a political organization, in 1951. And that's 10 years after Zeke had already used ethnicity to destroy NYM. So you can't, Awolowo does not have, that's not his, you can't even give it to him as his achievement. That's Zeke's achievement. We give it to him. He owns that. And then he mentioned that Zeke wanted to become premier in 1951, said 1951 debacle, and that people now cross-carpeted. That's rubbish. There was no post of premier in any part of Nigeria until 1954. So how could Zeke have wanted to become premier in 1951? He couldn't, because that position did not even exist. What happened was that Zeke actually won his seat in Lagos to represent Lagos in the Western Region Parliament in Ibadan. He won that seat. So much for tribalists. Yoruba people are tribalists, but they voted. Anyway, he won the seat to represent Lagos in Ibadan. But his party did not have the majority. And let me make something clear. Even AG did not have the majority at the time, like large enough to run the party, to run the government on their own. Neither of them had it. There were 2 major parties, AG, NCNC, but there were other groups as well. There was NPC in Lagos. There was Otu Edo in present-day Benin and Edo State. There was there was Improvement League. There was Ibadan People's Party. There were different groups like that, but the major ones were NCNC and AG. This was in 1951. The real issue, number one, Zeke won his election. I mean, Yoruba people are very tribalist, but they made sure that Zeke won the election in 1951. They should not have done that. He got to Western Region Parliament. In other words, it was Western Region Parliament. But when they got there, he couldn't form government because he didn't have the majority. And this is what he wrote in his book, My Odyssey. He said, towards the end of 1951, I stood for another election, this time to the Western House of Assembly. Western House of Assembly, not federal legislature. To the Western House of Assembly as a representative of Lagos under the Macpherson Constitution. And I topped the poll. The NCNC was under the impression that it had won the election with 43 members out of 80. And I said this last week. Have you ever heard a politician who is thinking straight that says that they were under the impression that they won, even though they did not win? How could you be under the impression that you won? They did not win. And I'll tell you why I use that word. Zeke was a master. He had a way with words. And if you're a very simple-minded person, I'll explain those things. So it says here, the NCNC was under the impression that it had won the election with 43 members out of 80. As it turned out, 20 of the legislators who were known or regarded as NCNC members or supporters or sympathizers decided to align themselves with another party. That makes no sense. If they ran on NCNC party, right, or NCNC ticket, why would they go and join another party? And why are you saying that they are NCNC members or supporters or sympathizers? Why can't they just be NCNC members who ran on your ticket? If your party, if your party had a proper structure and things were good, why are these people not your own people who ran, and they could have won or lost, but at least they ran on your, party's platform? Please power tap on TikTok. So this tells you that he's trying to go somewhere and we're going to get there with him. So he says, some of these legislators who disappointed the hopes of the NCNC are as follows. This is nonsense. What do you mean they disappointed the hopes of the NCNC? They were not members of NCNC. Oh, let me just tell you now. They did not run on NCNC platform. Oh, but let's read. Chief Author Press was legal advisor Sapele, Chief Anthony Nauro, Chief W.J. Falaye, Chief F.O. Awoshika, Chief S. Akintola, Chief A.M.A. Akinloye was at Ibadan. Was a candidate supported by the Mabolaje NCNC Alliance at Ibadan. Chiefs Aboderin, Akinbiyi, and Lanleyin were also supported by the Mabolaje NCNC Alliance at Ibadan. Only the late Alhaji Adegoke Adelabu, also of the Mabolaje NCNC Alliance, associated with the NCNC after the election. Does this make sense? Not really. And I'm going to read something to you. I read it last week. Like I said, we're going to have to repeat some of the things we did on Friday so that we can end this particular part. It doesn't really make too much sense. I'm going to understand why in a bit. So you see the way he crafted that stuff. He didn't call them members. He called them members and supporters and sympathizers. Very vague. Very vague. In actual fact, when you throw words out like that, there's no meaning to that. Like it doesn't really mean anything. And I'll explain. So he said that they were under the impression that they won. Nobody goes to election and says that they were under the impression they won. You either won or you lost. It's the same thing that Peter Obi and his people are doing with all this. There's one video that I saw. I didn't play that video, Abi. Where Peter Obi was talking about how they should cancel one election. We'll talk about it some other time. It's the same mindset, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. So let me read to you what happened in 1951. I'll read The Political Philosophy of Chief Obafemi Awolowo by Olaiwola Abegunrin. Okay? The 1951 parliamentary elections were contested by two main political parties, the Action Group and the NCNC. Via the they should have put full stop. I'll take that again. The 1951 parliamentary elections was contested by two main political parties. The Action Group and the NCNC vied for supremacy in the Western Nigeria, although there were other local parties, mostly cultural organizations without affiliation to the AG or the NCNC. There's underline that word, without affiliation to the AG or the NCNC before the elections. Some of these local organizations were Ibadan People's Party, IPP, and Ibadan Citizens Council, ICC, in Ibadan, Ondo Improvement League in Ondo, Otuedo in Benin, Nigeria People's Congress, MPC, in Lagos. Before the elections, the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian government, Mr. Harold Cooper, wrote to all political parties contesting the elections to make known names of the candidates for the final elections to the House of Assembly. In addition, Mr. Cooper told newsmen at the press conference that this would help his department to identify the party to which elected candidates belong when issuing press releases or broadcasting results of the final election on Monday, September 22nd. It is understood that letters have been It is understood that letters have been dispatched to the secretariats of the NCNC, the Action Group, the Nigerian People's Congress, and other parties contesting the elections. That's from Harold Cooper. The Action Group, the Action Group submitted its list of candidates, while the NCNC did not submit or publish the names of its candidates. Why? Because they knew that the people they were banking on were not their members and they were not candidates of their platform, of their party. Why? They were not organized. Organize. Every other day. In addition, the Action Group list was released before the final election and published in the Daily Service and the Nigerian Tribune on and before the September 24, 1951, the day of the final election in most parts of the West. Chief A.M.A. Akinloye. These are the names that Zeke wrote, mentioned in his book. Chief A.M.A. Akinloye, Chief Moyo Abodere, Chief D.T. Akinbiyi, Chief S.O. Lanleyin, Chief S.A. Akinyemi, and Alhaji Adegoke Adelabu all contested on NCNC platform on Ibadan People's Party IPP Egbe Omo Ibile platform and won. They were independent of both the AG and the NCNC. Only Alhaji Adelabu went with the NCNC. The people that Zeke was mentioning in that book were not members of NCNC. They were Ibadan People's Party members. They did not win because NCNC helped them or because AG helped them. They won. They were not part of either party. So they won, okay? And they were like the lovely bride that everybody wanted, or lovely virgin or maiden that everybody wanted to woo and make their bride. I'll read something to you here. According to Chief Abodere, this is what Abodere said. Dr. Azikiwe has sent telegrams to all the 6 elected members of Ibadan People's Party, urging them to join his party, the NCNC. Dr. Azikiwe's strategy was, however, faulty, since he relied mostly on Adelabu and Akinloye, and thought that by getting the 2 of them, he would be able to switch the other members to his camp. I favored the Action Group, and I succeeded in getting all the members, with the exception of Adelabu, to the Action Group. The popular idea that the IPP cross-carpeted from the NCNC to the Action Group is therefore erroneous. Why was it erroneous? Because they were never members of NCNC. It wasn't move from NCNC to AG. It was, you are in the middle, go AG or go NCNC, and they chose AG. And then the ones that lost have been crying since 1951. That there was tribalism and clinical, and they used it to get people. At the close of the election on September 24, 1951, the Action Group, judging by its list of candidates released before the election, had won 38 out of 72 seats contested. 3 days later, 3 candidates who contested as independent and won joined forces with their colleagues to sign the Action Group Pact of Loyalty. They were Alhaji DS Adegbeonro, Egba Division, J.O. Oshuntokun, Ekiti Division, and S.O. Hassan, Ekpe Division, making AG 41 seats. Chief Adeola Odutola contested and won as an independent in Ijebu-Ode, and after the election, declared for the AG. Chief Adeola Odutola's declaration for the Action Group was announced by Chief Bode Thomas in the Daily Times of November 1, 1951. In addition, the 3 Otu Edo members, including S.O. Igudaro, Benin Province, won on the platform of the local party, and they also declared for the Action Group. So you see the pattern. These were not people leaving NCNC to join AG. These were people who won as independent candidates or on smaller platforms, but chose to align themselves with AG. The Western Regional elections of November 1951 gave the Action Group a majority victory of 44 seats out of 75 seats in the Western Nigerian House of Assembly. Only in Lagos were the 5 seats won by the NCNC led by Nnamdi Azikiwe, and there were internal squabbles and indiscipline within the party, which led to all the 5 NCNC legislators contesting among themselves for the 2 seats allocated to Lagos in the House of Representatives. I'll explain later. What does this? Let me explain now. So there were 5 seats in Lagos. NCNC won all 5 seats. But those 5 guys have to travel to Ibadan and represent Lagos in the Western Region Parliament of tribalists and bigots. So they have now become part of them. Now, two of them would now be sent to the House of Representatives in Lagos. Now, like I said on Friday, if you know how to tole and you know how to organize yourselves, 5 of you won Lagos. You have a leader. Shouldn't you have a meeting amongst yourselves to choose the 2 that will represent you in the central legislature? They could not. Every single one of them wanted to go to central legislature, House of Reps. So Zeke wanted to go, and each of the 4 wanted to go. Nobody was going to step down for the other. And I remember mentioning on Friday that Zeke went into campaign. He even traveled to Remo to go and see Prince Adedoyin's father, to tell him to prevail upon his son to step down for him, Azikiwe. And so the king now asked him if the position was good. He said yes. So the king said, if the position was good, why would they tell his son to step down for you? That's kind of politics they were playing. So what should have happened was that they should have decided that thing amongst themselves as NCNC and then presented that to the parliament. But they did not do that. The Western regional elections, look, I've read that. Only in Lagos were the 5 seats won by the NCNC led by Nnamdi Azikiwe, and there were internal squabbles and indiscipline within the party, which led to all the 5 NCNC legislators contesting among themselves for the 2 seats allocated to Lagos in the House of Representatives. While the 1951 elections became the seeds of discord, the results in Lagos, as recorded in the Daily Times on November 22, 1951, had noted that the election result was a disappointment to the NCNC, whose leader, Nnamdi Azikiwe, has anticipated a majority in the regional and central federal legislature prior to the election. Azikiwe declared that he would not accept a ministerial post in an inferior legislature of the colonial type. The loss crippled the plan of the NCNC leader to paralyze the machinery of government, which would lead to the reformulation of a new constitution for Nigeria, because they were not happy with the McPherson constitution at the time. Obviously, the election outcome gave a majority to the action group, meaning that the NCNC could not form the Western Regional Government as Nnamdi Azikiwe was. I'll tell that again. Obviously, the election outcome gave a majority to the action group, meaning that the NCNC could not form the Western Regional Government as Nnamdi Azikiwe has hoped. However, the result in Lagos gave the NCNC some hope that its national president, Dr. Azikiwe, would become a leader in the federal legislature, because under the McPherson Constitution, a stipulated number of representatives from each administrative division was to be elected to the Federal House of Representatives from the Western House of Assembly. When the Western Nigeria House of Assembly met for the first time on January 7, 1952, 49 members instead of 44 declared for the action group. And this is actually where you call cross-carpeting. Stay with me. 49 members instead of 44 declared for the action group, thus culminating in a controversy that created a long mistrust between Chief Awolowo and Dr. Azikiwe. Apparently, the action group led by Chief Awolowo was able to organize the Western Regional Government with a comfortable margin, AG 49 and NCNC 26. By the House of Assembly, you know what? I need to take a drink, I beg. Motinka, something. So I think about fortune bound. I need to take something. Owele to Lonja is 9:15. But I want us to finish this part today. Apparently, the action group led by Chief Awolowo was able to organize the Western Regional Government with a comfortable margin, AG 49 and NCNC 26. But the House of Assembly was required to elect 2 of the 5 NCNC representatives from Lagos to the House of Representatives. The action group majority in the House voted for Dr. Lorun Nimbe, NCNC, a Yoruba, and Prince Adeleke Adedoyin, a Yoruba, who later joined the AG, neither of whom will step down in favor of their leader, Dr. Azikiwe, NCNC, and Ibo. Azikiwe and most of the Ibo believed that Chief Awolowo used ethnic persuasion to win over Dr. Lorun Nimbe and Prince Adedoyin, and both deserted Dr. Azikiwe's NCNC-led political party and joined the action group. Henceforth, Nnamdi Azikiwe and majority of the Igbo never trusted Chief Awolowo and the Yoruba, as Awolowo was labeled a tribalist, thus putting more flame on the political discord between Chief Awolowo and Dr. Azikiwe, which has started in the Nigerian youth movement in 1938. Consequently, I will explain. No. Consequently, subsequent activities hardened the Igbo against anything Yoruba. And with this episode, Azikiwe, as the national president of the NCNC, was pigeonholed as the unofficial leader of opposition in the Western House of Assembly. Dr. Azikiwe defended his abysmally poor performance at the polls that, quote-unquote, he and his party were under the impression that they had won 43 out of the 80 seats in the Western House of Assembly, but 20 of the legislators whom they regarded as their members, supporters, or sympathizers aligned themselves with the action group. Anyway, let me explain what happened. They were supposed to organize themselves, they could not. So, Papa helped them. And I will make sure the people that went to the House of Reps were Yoruba people. Then they said it was because Awo used ethnic persuasion. I don't know if that's what Awo used. But if I was there, if I were Awo, I would have used that ethnic persuasion. I would. So I hope that's what Awo did, because that would be brilliant. And I'll tell you this, you have to be, and pardon my French, a person has to be daft. I don't say you. A person has to be very daft to have a problem with using ethnic persuasion to ensure that Zeke did not get to the House of Representatives. Prof says he didn't use it. I know, that's what I'm saying. I said, if I was him, if I were Awo, I would even use that ethnic persuasion. Because they say like, oh, use ethnic persuasion. Thank you very much, Prof. He says, no, he didn't use ethnic persuasion. I'm saying, even if I were Awo, I will use that ethnic persuasion. They should come and beat themselves. And I'll tell you why I think it's a very, I'm not saying it's a very good thing. It is justifiable. That's the word. I'll tell you why it's justifiable. See what we've been reading. If you started in 1938 to denigrate Yoruba people in Yoruba land, calling football match like saying that Igbos had exceptionally developed brains, saying that, you know, that was 1940, yeah? Then by 1944, you organized a group, Igbo National Caucus, and designed a plan to perpetually rule Nigeria as Igbo people, 1944. And in 1945, you had Oyema going everywhere in Lagos Island Club saying that the Igbo domination of Nigeria was only a question of time, 1945. And in 1941, you already played that politics of using tribalism to destroy NYM and to in Yoruba, Serawan Ijebu versus the rest in Yoruba land. 44 was when you declared that you're going to rule Nigeria perpetually as an ethnicity. Listen, 45 was when Oyema was saying his own, Sidi Oyema. 48 was when you, Azikiwe, began to push against Ẹkáàbọ Odùduwà in Yoruba land, calling it a fascist organization that must be pulled down. Right? Writing against Yoruba people having their own ethnic organization in Yoruba land while you were the president of Igbo Federal Union in Yoruba land. But you wrote against Yoruba people having Ẹkáàbọ Odùduwà in Yoruba land, and you had the guts to organize some Yoruba people from the NCNC to organize something called Yoruba Federal Union. You organize Yoruba Federal Union for Yoruba people because they're the people you're comfortable with in Yoruba land. You now cancel, let's say, in 1951, to say you want to become what in Yoruba land? You want to go and represent them in Parliament alone. So even if, I'm not saying that's what you use, but even if that was what he used, is there any, do we have any moderator here? Because sometimes they come in like that, very like just irritant. So you have, sorry guys, Prof says actually Azikiwe used ethnic persuasion to remove Ayoeta. Yes, in the eastern region when they moved him, when he eventually. So how on earth do you expect? So number one, Awolowo did not use ethnic persuasion, but let's even assume he did. He will still be right, because there's no way you're going to spend the last 10, this is 1951, the last 13 years denigrating Yoruba people, saying that by the way, 1948 was when he was working against Yoruba ethnic organization. 1949 was when he, Zik, declared that the God of Africa had specially created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa and free them from the bondage of the ages. 2 years later, you now want to represent those people in central legislature. They should do everything to make sure you don't get there. Why? Because you're going to use the opportunity to now really rule them as an ethnicity. That's the point. In other words, what you have been building for 13 years, consistently building, was an ethnic supremacy plan. So when they say Awolowo used tribalism, number one, he did not. Number two, if he did, it was justifiable. I mean, it is justifiable. And Action Group 1, because it was strong, disciplined, cohesive, committed, and well organized. The NCNC had the goodwill but lacked organization. The internal squabbles and indiscipline within the NCNC affected its image. For instance, the 5 NCNC legislators contesting among themselves for the 2 seats allocated to Lagos in the House of Assembly. Action Group concentrated on the West and limited its operations to the Western region throughout the period of the countrywide elections. The AG's campaign strategy was more appealing and effective. On the other hand, the NCNC sought votes only from big towns, while AG covered all grounds in towns, villages, and hamlets. Most important, Action Group came out with very impressive and very reasoned policy papers. This one, they said that they told them to send the list of their candidates. They didn't even send the list until after elections. In fact, even after they didn't send the list. That's to tell you how unorganized, disorganized these people are. Just to be crying victim all over the place. 1951, 2026. On the other hand, the NCNC sought votes only from big towns, while AG covered all grounds in towns, villages, and hamlets. Most important, Action Group came out with very impressive and well-reasoned policy papers, with the party manifesto informing the voters of the program which the party would pursue if elected. It chose to work for the welfare state, which would, among other things, provide free education and free health services for the people of the Western Nigeria. To cap it all, the party's motto, freedom for all and life more abundant, was more appealing and encouraging to the people of Western region. The NCNC did not present any party program. Listen, no. The NCNC did not present any party program or party manifesto. Dr. Azikiwe promised, this is like obedient, this is like Peter Obi. Dr. Azikiwe promised that it will be better after the elections that the NCNC will present its manifesto, and accused Chief Awolowo of presenting AG party programs ahead of the elections. However, the Action Group's leaders' sagacity, popular appeal, and pragmatic approach to politics were indisputable. In other words, you're trying to have an election, you're not telling people what you're going to do for them. And you say it's tribalism. Party manifesto did not come on. It's like when they asked, what was his name? Peter Obi, and he said that he didn't want to share everything, so they will not copy him. It's the same thing as Zik did. Election ball, what are you going to do for the people? You didn't talk. The people that now release manifesto, you were attacking them. Because you're supposed to wait to win before you tell people what you are going to do for them. I don't know how people think, but it's not very different from what's happening now, isn't it? It's quite interesting. So I was going to say something about the old premiership thing. So what would have happened was that if Zik had been able to, if Zik's party, NCNC, had been able to form the majority in the House, they would have been the one to appoint the leader of government business. So when the man in the video was talking about the fact that, Zik was going to become premier in 1954, Zik could not become premier in 1954. Highest in 52, he would have become leader of business government. I keep saying, mixing it up. He would have become leader of government business. And then in 54, he would have become the premier. But they clipped his wings as they should. Now, let's listen to a few more things.
Remember
remember then, in 1949, an Hausa man was elected the mayor of Enugu, the mayor of Enugu. An Hausa man was elected in Onitsha for Onitsha province as the representative in the House of Chiefs. A Yoruba man was elected in Port Harcourt as the mayor of Port Harcourt. His deputy was Maki and Ibo man. So things were going very well.
He said all this. There are two. I'm going to talk about two. He said all this without telling that the deputy mayor of Lagos was Mbono GK, who was also an Igbo man. So it made it look as if they're this altruistic people just, sharing things. He also did not tell you what happened to Altine, who he mentioned as the mayor of Enugu. Was he the mayor of Enugu? Yes, he was the mayor of Enugu. But while he was there, Zeke was also in the parliament in Ibadan in 1951. And Bono GK was the deputy mayor of Lagos. And he was Igbo. Now, I want to read what happened to Altine. Prof. Shamabe. Actually, Prof gave me this. There's something we're having a legislative debates 1965. Okay, where did I have it? Mumbo, give me a second, please. I'm going to find it for you. So we're talking about what they did to Altine, who was the Fulani man. Thank you, Prof. In fact, thank you for also catching that. The Yoruba man that was elected as deputy mayor in Port Harcourt was voted by Rivers people, not by Igbos. So he slot that in so that he can give you the impression that Igbos were giving people posts in there. The only one that you can say happened in Igbo land was Enugu, and it was Altine. And even that Altine, they eventually dealt with him. I'm going to read you what happened. Prof says the Igbos later schemed him out. His name was Dr. Ajibade. Thank you very much for that. What happened with Altine really was that he ended in prison. Let's just put it that way. This is what I wanted to read to you earlier. Okay, we'll get back to this later. Something, I'm trying to remember the exact phrase that the parliamentarian used. Something along the lines of he didn't know his place, or he had to be put in his place, something like that. Give me a second, I'll just read it out to you. But to be clear, it wasn't like we were just, saying, no, nobody else can come in. People actually came in and, they got their own stuff too. But, okay. What's Mama say? I actually have the book here, but it's the page that I'm looking for. Just give me a second. The issue I'm having right now is the particular page. I'll give an idea what's in there. Essentially, is that they found a way to get him out of office and eventually imprison him. I was sure I had it open, but now I can't find it. There's something else I wanted to read from. I mentioned it earlier. There's something else I want to read from. Okay. Page emote why when you want people more see page towa. I'll check your page now. Maybe it will even be easier. Prof. I think I'm going about this the wrong way. Give me a second, guys. Let me just calm down. Time batting by my rush, batting rush when the might cut over. But we're going to find it now. I know you posted it in response to one. Legislative. Miorio. Prof, please send me the link. Maybe I should use it. I can't find the page. It's there. I've read it. I still read it over the weekend. But it's okay. Mombo. Hello. Hope you can hear me now. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you, Prof. Found it. Thank you. So this is Senate Debates, 29 April 1965. Okay, there was an exchange, a couple of exchanges actually, that eventually culminated in what happened to Otine. So let's get into it very quickly. Senator Okata says, I would say then that my appeal is an appeal to people who are already reasonable. And if I have to make another appeal to people who are already reasonable, it will only be to ask them for an increase in the number of such representatives. I hope it is no trespass on their generosity, but I think it is reasonable. One senator at least does not understand what is happening in the country, and he asks for the number of Northerners in the Eastern House of Chiefs. May I say, listen to this, just like what the gentleman said earlier. Why is this thing moving like this? Stay in one place. So it says here, one senator at least does not understand what is happening in the country, and he asks for the number of Northerners in the Eastern House of Chiefs. May I say that for many years, the mayor of the regional capital of Eastern Region, Enugu, was a Northerner by the name Alhaji Umaru Otine. Okay. So somebody now countered that and says here, so many untrue remarks have been made. This is Alhaji Bello Dandogo, 1964. It says, so many untrue remarks have been made. In the north, the Igbos are considered second class, so they said, and it is untrue. I am here categorically to deny this. We give the Igbos more than they deserve. Go over to Kano, Makurdi, and even Jos. You will see for yourselves that the Igbos are everywhere in the north. If the professor does not go to the north, he should not make this sort of statement here. The Igbos have lived in the north and they are very happy with us. They never accuse us of what the professor is accusing us of. Mention has been made by an honorable member that the East gave the post of mayor to a northerner. That is true. But where is it today? He has maliciously been pushed into gaol, that's into prison. Then Mr. Dimba Owerri North says, it is a pity some of us were not here at the beginning to hear what was said. But the point I am trying to make is that the chief whip said the mayor has been maliciously pushed into gaol. I think with such a remark, our judiciary has come to question in this house. Then Alhaji Bello Dandogo responded, what I want to ask is one question. What has been done in the West? Have you a northern or an eastern mayor in the West? Then he said, no. Then Alhaji Dandogo says, after all, we are no children. We are all familiar with window dressing. Umaru Otine was the mayor of Enugu, yes, but the next day he was pushed into gaol. In other words, the same people who try to use Umaru Otine as the post, it's not even poster boy. It's really to show that they are, cosmopolitan. They allow different people. Eventually, got him imprisoned. The point is, all these things about our own place was open to everybody, but it didn't allow us in other people's places is nonsense. Zeke was representing Lagos in 1951. Also, the deputy mayor of Lagos was an Igbo man, Bono GK. So it's not just in the southeast; it also happened in Yoruba land. And the one in Port Harcourt, like Professor Remy said in the comment section, it wasn't Igbos that put the Yoruba man as a deputy mayor. It was the people in Rivers, and Rivers State people are not Igbos. Although there are Igbos there, but they are not Igbos. Just saying. Let's just listen to the end of this and then we'll close for today.
Have this paranoia about Igbo man in Lagos. Ordinarily, the Igbo man doesn't give a damn who is where, especially if there is efficiency. The Igbo man is individualist, and the individualistic person is usually proficient, usually creative, usually productive. So if he sees a productive person, he works with that person, no matter where the person comes from.
It's a lie. So here's the mistake that I think Igbo people make. Is putting themselves on a pedestal, like they're not humans. Like they're not humans. They are heads and shoulders above every other person. They don't think about, they're not emotional. They don't, and they do it the worst. It's like when Peter Obi came with his video that they supported MQ Abela because it's a lie. MQ Abela won in one state out of 4 in 1993. They voted too far. It's only after the fact they now be telling an Igbo man does not. He's a human being. So, and this is the issue. The things you do, these are things that human beings do. But you not try to make it look as if you are higher than normal human beings, so you don't do that. But in reality, you do it worse than everybody. For instance, we read the report here last week. As far as election rigging was concerned in 2023 election, the concentration of rigging in Nigeria was in the southeast. We read the statistics here last week. And if you want to know more about it, go to Redomi Global. There's a Substack article on election rigging in Nigeria, last election. Check it. It was concentrated, but they'll be the one shouting, oh, they rig it, they rig it. We played videos here. I think there's a video coming out maybe tomorrow on that election rigging of last election. But they will be projecting, we don't do things like that, but you lesser human beings, meanwhile you are worse than the people you are trying to show that you are better than, which doesn't make sense. Why do people like superiority? By the way, superiority is actually a terrible form of inferiority complex. There's nothing superior about anybody that's saying that is superior. It's usually very, very inferior. Is hiding his inferiority. That's usually what happens. There's something I said I was going to read before we go. I'll just quickly do that. I'll quickly do that. Give me a second. It's by God. This one I know where I left it before we started, so it will not give me while. But thanks, Prof, for providing that Senate note very quickly because I needed it. Okay. I want to wrap up the old 1951 thing very quickly, and I want to do it with GOD's statement. Umbo. I'm looking for a convenient place to start the reading. Now this is weird. That's if things are disappearing, no. I'm an issue. Umbo. Oh, I was looking at the wrong place. Sorry. Great. Awo or Zik, who won the 1951 Western Nigeria elections, was published in 1997, and this was by Ganiu Daudu, or like everybody calls him, God, was the most vicious accuser of the Action Group, I'll tell that again. He was the most vicious accused of the Action Group leadership of everything evil in respect of 1951 parliamentary elections. His name would readily come to mind because of his many attacks, some of which I wish to refer to. In his autobiography titled Rebirth of a Nation, Dr. Mbadiwe wrote in the last paragraph of page 71 of the book as follows: "But in pursuance of the policy of creating a political climate healthy enough to make one citizen wherever he lives, Dr. Azikiwe contested and won the general elections in 1951 into the Western House of Assembly. To stultify this policy of one Nigeria in favor of his tribally based philosophy, Chief Awolowo got some elected members to cross the carpet from the NCNC to his AG side. Zik, the victor, lost, and Awolowo's party was able to form the government of the Western region." I also like to refer, end of quote. I also like to refer to another statement by Dr. Mbadiwe, this time on page 75 of the same book, where he asserted as follows, quote, "In the Western region, the NCNC won the elections over the Action Group by a handsome majority." That never happened, by the way. "Here began the great innovation and surprise in Nigeria elections hinted earlier. A most dangerous practice in the electoral process of Nigeria was introduced for the first time, namely cross-carpeting and open bribery, which were brought into operation by the Action Group. Overnight, successful NCNC members were bought over by the Action Group and the majority was reversed in its favor." This man is a liar. This is why anytime I pass through Zuma, by the way, it's just that it's the federal government that can name that road is a federal road. If it was state, would have just moved, they should have just changed that name. The man was a liar. Particularly in his book, The Rebirth of a Nation. I have that book, we're not reading it today. We're just lying. NCNC never won the majority. Even Zik said they had 23 out of 80. How is 23 out of 80 majority to your law? Then he said cross-carpet, and I mentioned it earlier. They did not cross-carpet from NCNC to AG. They were independent candidates who had to move either to the AG side or to the NCNC side, and they chose the AG for whatever reason. But they were not NCNC members. And we read what some of them had to say earlier. So, Mbadiwe, with his lies, continued. Overnight, successful NCNC members were brought. By the way, Achebe also wrote this nonsense in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria. I think he published in 1970s. The Trouble with Nigeria. He also lied about, he said that he was even there when people cross-carpeted. How can you be there to see what did not happen? Overnight, successful NCNC members were bought over by the Action Group, and the majority was reversed in its favor. Embers of tribalism were fanned by the Action Group leadership. Successful NCNC men who were not Yoruba were scared away. Dr. Azikiwe, who won a seat to the Western House of Assembly from a Lagos constituency, decided to resign. Since membership of the House of Representatives was by an electoral college in the regional house, no NCNC from the West came to the House of Representatives. Is a lie. 2 NCNC members went to House of Representatives in Lagos. They were not just Igbo. That was how Awolowo and his team qualified for the Federal House, and Zik was therefore excluded. In addition to the statement quoted above, the late Dr. Mbadiwe, a former federal minister and prominent leader of the NCNC, addressed the press on his vision of the Third Republic on Wednesday, 20 September 1989. During the course of this press conference, he launched another attack on the late Chief Awolowo and his party and accused the NC and not the Action Group that won the first parliamentary The Guardian of Thursday, 21 September 1989. Said he, Dr. Azikiwe and his party won the majority seats in the Western House of Assembly. He was due to be elected the leader of government business when overnight the Action Group introduced the notorious carpet crossing. This man, I'm just trying to tell you that whatever you see the people do right now, even this man, he used to call himself a man of timber and caliber, Mbadiwe, is the same mindset. He's the one who wanted to become Prime Minister of Nigeria on 15th January 1966 after they killed Tafawa Balewa. So let's continue what lies is having to share with us. By this manipulation, members who won under the NCNC crossed over to the Action Group building. I'll tell you again. By this manipulation, members who won under the NCNC crossed over to the Action Group, building it to become the majority party in the West. As a result of this, Chief Awolowo was elected leader of government business, and Dr. Azikiwe had to resign. Let me read some of the things that GOG said. Each of the 3 statements of the late elder statesman quoted above, with due regard to his political status and memory, is to say the least the very opposite of the truth. It is a classic example of what is known in legal parlance as expressio falsi suppressio veri, When the last statement quoted above was published on the 21 September 1989, the author wrote a rejoinder which was published in Nigerian Tribune of Tuesday, October 17, 1989, with the title History, Politics and the Nigerian Nation. The Guardian and Vanguard of Friday, October 20, 1989, with the headlines Mbadiwe and the 1951 elections, and K.O. Mbadiwe and the 1951 Western Regional elections between fact and fiction, respectively. The Daily Sketch also ran the story with the caption, Rejoinder, Mbadiwe's Great Falsification, on Friday, 27 October 1989. I'll tell you why I'm reading all these things. The rejoinder, published in 4 dailies on 3 different dates, given above, contained in an abridged form the facts put across in this work. What he's saying here, we've repeated it over and over this evening. But the reason I read this is because when these people lied in 1989, Yoruba elders did not say, let's just leave it as national unity. They countered the lies. They did not have Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Twitter or Twitch or any of these platforms that we have today. What did they have? They had newspapers, and GOD wrote inside Nigerian Tribune, Guardian, Vanguard, Daily Sketch, just to make sure that they countered the narrative. At no time in Nigeria's history did Zik win the majority of Western Region Parliament. It did not happen. But what's this man's name? Mbadiwe wrote it as if he was there. It did not happen. The way he wrote that line inside paper and published it and said it in his mouth, and even wrote a book. The book, like I said, you can look for it. It's called The Rebirth of a Nation. That's Rebirth of Lies. The point is, whatever you see today did not start today. These are just they are the latest iteration of liars, right, on the block. And our job is not to say, oh, Nigeria is one nation under God. Actually, it's not a nation. It's a country of many nations, just to be clear. Oh, let's just leave it together. We are just living. No. Don't allow the lies to fly. Zik did not win majority in the parliament. Zik won his own seat, and he got his own seat. Zik wanted to go to the House of Representatives in Lagos, and contrary to what Mbadiwe said, 5 seats in Lagos were won by SNC. Therefore, 2 of them will be NCNC. Mbadiwe said no NCNC members went. Actually, 2 went. It just so happens that both of them, Olorunembe and Prince Adedoyin, were Yoruba, and that's what has been killing them since 1951. And that's how they will be until they repent and change their mind. I say all of this to say that if a Yoruba person and they play this rubbish, don't fall for it. It's propaganda, and it's what some people are known for. May God bless you. May God bless Yoruba land. May God bless Nigeria. And may God help people that are bent on lying to change their mind and evolve like human beings. Thank you very much for listening to that response to that video. The second one is about Ife. We'll respond to that one the next time we come. Want to send me a video of the Obi of Onitsha just rewriting Yoruba history on the go, saying, so he was quoting authors. All the books he was quoting, I have. Everything he said, they said they did not say. Why are people like this? He quoted Akin Jogbin, Samuel Johnson, Akitoye. Everything he was mentioned, the names of the authors right, the books right, the content wrong. They did not say what he said, they said. They just say, oh, if you can't read, you go and verify. It's a lie. Oh. We'll talk about that. And by the way, let me just say, as a matter of advertisement, the reason I insist on spelling Ibo as IBO, which is the original spelling, is actually because of what we're going to discuss the next time we have a full session about this whole idea of I can never call Igbo IGBO because even they don't pronounce Igbo. There's no B in their own orthography. Linguistic. Their own is aggressive. It sounds like bo. But we'll get into that next time. The point is just that Igbos and Ife, there's no connection. They're looking lexicon. Thank you very much. Thank you. They don't have B. No, there's a word they use, the linguistic term. Anyway, I'm going to look for that one before next week. Or before next time. Is this week. The point is just that all this, they've been to the America. I'll play all those videos before I go into the details next time. I'll upload the America, all the places that they have come from all over the world before we now arrive at Ife and now explain why they are wrong and why a king. And you see, because of their stature, you'll now be like, he's a king, he can't lie. anybody can lie, and it was a lie. And we're going to respond to it next time. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. I really appreciate everybody who came up to speak earlier. Thanks for those who've been tapping in the comment section. And thank you for everybody. And thank you for coming around. For those of us on YouTube and Facebook, thanks for coming back in. We had an issue earlier, but I'm glad you came back in. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gift. Active Jade. This your name is something, though, but thank you. Thanks everyone for being part of today's session. We'll call it a day now. Again, if you call him a tribalist, own it. Then explain to them what their fathers did for 13 years before trying to rule Yoruba land. And then tell them that if they have sense, will they allow somebody who has already told them that they will perpetually rule the country to become a politician? We even tried to let him have that seat in Lagos. What they just did, right, was to keep him in. By the way, let me just quickly explain before we go. What they did in the Western Region Parliament was not to expel Zik. It was to keep him as the leader of opposition in Ibadan. And he hated it. What he wanted, two things he wanted. Number one, to either be in Lagos House of Representatives, or if he's in Ibadan, to be the leader of government business. And to become a member of House of Representatives, he needed the majority to choose him. We didn't choose him, we chose Yoruba people. To become leader of government business, he needed the majority in parliament, and his party lost. Well, his party won some seats, but the other seats they were hoping to get were not, again, they were not seats belonging to NCNC. They were seats belonging to other people like independent candidates and other smaller parties who chose not to go with NCNC. But because they've already eaten the eggs before they hatched the eggs before they got it. Therefore, they assumed that they had the eggs. And if you didn't get the opportunity to do it, they're shouting tribalism. Don't mind them. God bless you. Before we go, we're going to listen to our anthems, the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem. Let me thank those who gave gifts earlier. I really do appreciate it. I don't usually stop because of the flow, but I appreciate every single thing you give, from roses to guitars. I saw guitar. Guitars and all those nice stuff. We'll put up the account details as the anthem plays. If you'd like to support us, we'll put up the account details. Also, if you'd like to get the book, we don't have the Odyssey. My Odyssey, I think, is out of print, but we have the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo on Redomi Books. Redomi Books is our bookshop on Telegram. Please check it out, and you can purchase the book for yourself. All right. So before we go, we're going to have our anthems, and we will call it a day. Oh, I see there are some comments. I'll probably just quickly read. You know what? Let me just type this stuff. I'll read the comments. I'll play the anthem. I think that's a better way. I read the comments because sometimes you can't bring people up because of time, but I can see read what you have to say. By the way, we brought people up earlier, and it was really cool. I had a great time hosting everybody. On board. Brilliant. All right, so if you'd like to support us, please use the bank details on the screen. God bless you. Let me read some of the things on YouTube and Facebook. New Era says, I want to go. Eman Jagon. Olamileko on Facebook says Igbo people like playing victim. Actually, it's true. I've mentioned it here before. There's a report from 1948, January 1948, where they wanted, the Governor General of Nigeria at the time was Sir Arthur Richards, and it was like the region contributes the least, but the clamor for more and more of everything. I'm quoting him verbatim. They clamor for more and more of everything, but they contribute the least. Once they clamor and they see what you have done to us, they're not giving us anything. They are going for your emotions. If you read 1949 speech by Ezekiel, you understand that speech was about victimhood and also that they were better than everybody. It's quite interesting. God de Baba, why are they even crying over what doesn't belong to them? Same way they did with LP. Nothing has changed. One day, I think we'll look at Ziki's movement, and then you will compare them with Obedient movement. If you find any difference, it's time. That's the only difference. Everything is about the same thing. Or the method is even the same, apart from the fact that some of the things they will do physically, they will do online. And in some cases, they still do it physically, like the videos we saw where they were beating people in the East. Adekunle Rotimi on Samuel says those who formed the club should have called it Yoruba Tennis Club. They should have called it Yoruba Tennis Club. He's referring to the Yoruba Tennis Club that they should have called it Yoruba so that Igbos to have a place. I mean, but really, it's not everything that we have to open up. Some things have to be kept for your own people. And you don't have to apologize for it. And if you go somewhere and they don't allow you in, it's not necessarily because they hate you. Maybe because they like their own too much. What if they have meeting and now you come now, we start speaking soon, you start saying that we are speaking Yoruba. And we are tribalists. Soon you start telling us how we should run the place. Tá fẹ́ pọ̀ fún ṣé wọ́n ní ká máa pọ̀ fún Yorùbá ní náà wọ́n ní kán jọ àwọn kankan bá ti jọ ìbàdàn ṣé wọ́n ní kán wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe léde wọn. Meanwhile, tó bá lọ jọ àwọn ẹ̀sìn míì nǹkan tó máa ń ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́mọ máa ṣe o. But wọ́n ti wọ́n báyìí Yorùbá because you are supposed to be sophisticated. All right. Somebody said Baby Factory was recently busted. Yes, I saw the news. Your might on YouTube. Baby Factory was recently busted in Lagos State last week. I bet the usual suspects are behind the illegal operation. I saw the news. I just didn't talk about the usual people. But we're not going to dwell on that. New Era on YouTube says, we just found out that Dr. Azikiwe never had a PhD. Oh, no, he never did. So why was he called Dr. Azikiwe then? Zik had been dishonest for too long. No, he never had a PhD. Apart from Ikejani, I don't think any of them had a PhD. All this is Kingston Badiwe, Nwaforizu. Most of them, their doctorate is like chief. Chief, kinikon. Oh, yeah, Kuni. Zik never had a PhD. But if you don't put that doctor, well, I know. Nera says gaslighting tactics don't pay. And Esekoli already understood Azikiwe's character completely and he was not deceived by him. Someone says honorary. Honorary came later. Rap for sure. Yes, they got honorary later, but some of them were using titles. I don't know if it was Zik, but some of them were using titles. They just, there's an English word I'm looking for. There were some of them. There's a book where I read it. They were just picking up. It was when they were talking about Ikejani and Orizu and the whole thing that they did. But I know Zik had honorary degrees, but they've been using doctors did not start with honorary degrees. They're using Dr. Kiniko in the 1930s, 40s. It was like I don't know, like a fad. But that's of course that's not to say that they didn't have honorary doctorate. But there is actually a report I read that a lot of them use that title just as like. Just to tell you that one Jumi Stalo. But to be fair, he also had an honorary title, like people said in the comment section. That's also true. Okay. Akintayo says they are just too loud there. Let's see that one. Lawrence says APC tribal bigots. The only thing I want to ask is that at what point in your life are you going to evolve? How are you going to use the same thing your fathers used in 1940s and 1950s? Do you not grow some, like, more cells? Anyway, Akintayo Shijuade, Awo has always been their master. He knows how to beat them to their games, and that is. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Let me just quickly finish this comment section, then we can go. Akindele says Awu has always been their master. He knows how to beat them to their games, and that's why they don't like him. That's okay. New Era says Uncle Busui often native wisdom has more forensic, or has more foresight. I think that's what you meant to say than education. They just look at Azikwe's people and don't see any Yoruba leading them, and they believe that in the West too, only Yoruba should lead. Interesting. White Kubo says, sorry, Odeva Africa says I'll be doctor too. I mean, it's okay to be doctor now. Honorary is a good path to go, by the way. It's actually a good path. Although Nigeria is saying now that they don't want people that have honorary doctors to attach it to their names as titles, but I don't think it's bad, to be honest. As long as you don't have a PhD in front of it, I don't know why they are against it. But I think people that actually study to have a PhD I also feel like, why are you using the title? It's neither here nor there for me. But if you have honorary doctorate, I mean, well, some people buy it, it's neither here nor there. White Okubo says Otine's house in Enugu was burnt to ashes when the Igbos descended on the Hausas among them in 1967. Wow, I didn't know that. They almost massacred Otine's family, but they managed to escape. Wow. Yoruba ethnic proponent, hello, you said we should have a discussion about Ilorin at this time. You have to come early. You said we should have a discussion about Ishekiri Ilorin Kaba. I came on Friday, but you did not respond. I responded to you, and you said you had the Willings Commission report in front of you. I went back to check it. What you said was not in that book. I knew what I was saying. You were now using like I have the book in front of me. It's not there. No, not like Shemi Mogotimo saw. So I went back after. I mean, I'm talking to you now. Yoruba ethnic proponent. I went back to check the book. I told you it wasn't there. You said it was. I was like, okay, no problem. So I went to check. It was in there. Where you said that the Willings Commission report recommended that Ilorin Kaba, everybody should be put together and have a new Yoruba. It's not true now. It's not true. But if you insist that it's true, please tell us the page, because I have the book. Tell us the page. Because let's not change history. I know what you want is what I want. I also want our Yoruba people to be together, but let's not try and rewrite history. It's not cool. Almost ending it. Your mind says, imagine if Obi is as knowledgeable and eloquent as Zik. I bet he would have succeeded more in recruiting more of our younger ones today than in the past. I agree with you. To be fair, I think it's important to mention this. Zik was cerebral. Was an orator. Was a great speaker. It's just that he was always prevaricating and vacillating. So don't respect that, but I respect the fact that he was a good speaker. I like to look for something good in people. All right, that's enough. We have to go now. And then lastly, someone says, Prof, was it hatred for Awolowo that made the Kuti family align with Zik? I don't think it was hatred for Awolowo. I think it was love for NCNC and the definition of what Nigeria should be. Remember that Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was in NCNC. I mean, if you read Fela's so-called tribute to Awolowo, you still see that childishness and naivety in the way he wrote about, we did not have tribalism until you return. I'm like, do you even know what you're talking about? I mean, he's a fantastic musician, but you didn't understand history anyway. So I don't think it was hate. I don't think they hated Awolowo. I think they just aligned with. I'm saying I don't think. I'm not saying they don't do, because I don't know. But I don't think they hated him. I think it was just more like they were more aligned with NCNC. And to be fair, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was in NCNC even before AG was formed. She had joined NCNC in the 1940s. They went to London together. I think it was 47, right? And Action Group was formed in 1951. So they're already there. And they also had this one Nigeria thing, which doesn't really cut it. But yeah, that's my opinion. MB for sure says Zik was disadvantaged by his minority group. I know what you are doing. I want to go home. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. We'll be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. We're going to be having a replay, but it's going to be lovely. So please join us 4 p.m. Agomeni, Ife time, West African time. We'll start playing music on TikTok. Then we'll bring people on YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch much later. But thanks so much for making today's session a success, and thanks for power tapping. We're on 138k likes. My people, I think they went on that one. We are take break, but I appreciate everyone. Thanks for power tapping on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you very much for sharing the live as well. I really do appreciate it. Yes, I want to thank those who give gifts as well. Thank you very much for your generosity. May God bless you. And those who are using bank details as well, thank you very much for your support. God bless you. Before we go listen to the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem, and then we will finally call it a day. Enjoy.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace all battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without name. Oh Lord of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be Iṣẹ́ wa fúnlẹ̀ wá, fún ilẹ̀-èdè wa. Tàgbéga, tàgbéga, tàgbéga fáyé rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé bá ti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ òdàdìdé bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀
wa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògùn adúláwọ̀ ìmọ́lẹ̀ ìwọ̀ ni wọ́ọ̀kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́ Nàìjíríà náà ò ní bàjẹ́ ilé ìwọ̀ náà wọ̀ ní bàjẹ́ o. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. May God bless you and keep you and yours. Do have a lovely evening. I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. Have a great evening. Have a great night. God bless you. Odaro. Odaro.